Welcome. Thanks for joining us for the weekly PCS Grades webinar. Today we are talking about selling a home, fact versus fiction, with our favorite real estate expert, Rena Stevens. Thanks for joining us today, Rena. I'm Lizanne.
Thanks for having me.
I'm the content editor at PCS Grades. I'm a Marine Corps spouse and mom of 5 kids. And our military journey has brought us to buying 2 different houses and selling one of those so far. So I'm excited about today's conversation. This is my co-host, Tessa Robinson.
Hi, I'm Tessa Robinson. I'm a guest content creator for PCS Grades and very grateful co-host of our weekly webinar. Love moving, moved to Guam. I've moved to Kansas, all sorts of places on the East Coast. It's one of my favorite things to do. But there is no one better to talk about moving than the fabulous Rena Stevens. And Rena, our very first question for you, kind of a softball. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, gosh. I'm a spouse of 18 years prior service as well. Husband is still active duty. We've moved about 13 times over the years. And I've got 3 kids, twins that are 16 that are driving. Pray for me. A 9-year-old. I call it my little midlife crisis. And we have a Mastiff, 2 ferrets, and 2 African red-footed tortoises. So been doing real estate for about 4 years now, licensed in multiple states. And so I really just enjoy working with the market and giving you guys the insider scoop on what you need to know as you continue to PCS for years to come.
Rena, we're going to have to do a follow-up session with you on how to PCS with that many pets, for sure.
I'm working on it. We're supposed to be PCSing this summer. So I will let you know how this goes with the German embassy and trying to smuggle in 2 African red-footed tortoises. So this should be fun.
Amazing.
It should be fun.
Amazing. Well, we have some really fun, an incredible prize to give away today. Lizanne, tell our audience about what they can win and how.
I love today's prize. It is a $100 Target gift card because who doesn't love going to Target? So it will definitely be helpful if you are trying to stage your home, update some of your home decor, or just get ready to enjoy your next home. So you guys know the drill. Throughout today's webinar, we want Rena to hear your questions, your comments, your feedback. We've already got some good shout outs in the comments here. Jen is saying hello. We've got Kimberly from Fort Bragg joining in. Have a greeting from Marion here. So thanks to everyone who's watching. At the end of the webinar, we're going to be collecting all of your comments and putting you into our wheel of names for that Target gift card.
And Julie, I couldn't agree with you more. Yay, Target. And honestly, I feel like every time I walk into that place, somehow, if it's for one thing or 6 things, I spend at least $100. So I try not to go to Target without a gift card. All right, Rena, we're going to play a little game with you today called Fact or Fiction. So we're going to ask you questions, fact or fiction, and then I'll let you explain why it's fact or why it's fake. Are you ready?
I think so.
No pressure. All right. Fact or fiction? It's the seller's market and I don't need to stage my home.
So, well, that's a both. Okay. So these are loaded questions. And I will try to break them down as much as I can. So fact is sometimes you do not need to stage your home. It depends on if the home shows that it's a functional layout. Example, I was in a home the other day and my clients really loved it, but we couldn't figure out how to do the living room. There was a weird wall there, kind of an entryway. And to be honest, that type of room really did need staging because we end up walking on the house because we couldn't figure out furniture, TV, setups. So sometimes it does play and it will bring more buyers if that home is staged. But other times, again, if the home has an easy flow and I can navigate from the living room to the kitchen, back to the bedrooms, I don't need that staging. Another big thing that plays in with staging is square footage. If you have a massive home and it's just kind of an open floor plan, it might really, it really would help to have that stage so that, again, buyers can walk in and see how you've set it up and made it your home. I know that staging is not ideal. So if you can't stage the home, it would be ideal to do pictures with furniture in the home so that a potential buyer can go back and look and see how you had that home set up to make it yours.
Can you give us, that's so helpful. Can you give us just 1 or 2 tips of how to stage a house? What does that look like for you? What's your ideal staging situation?
Think of walking into an Airbnb. You want to keep it clean. You want to keep it that you don't want a lot of clutter. I don't like pictures of anybody unless they come with a frame. And so you really want to keep, I might have one on my wall now, but you really want to keep it super clean because people want to see the countertops, the floors, maybe an accent rug, but you don't want to cover up too much of the floors because then for me, I'm like, what are you hiding underneath? So I would say, think of walking into a coastal Airbnb, and that's what I would think of whenever you stage a home.
I love that. Well, Susan is enjoying our game here. So she says, this sounds fun. And I'm going to take my turn. Let's say that Zillow says my home is worth a certain amount. Is that fact or fiction?
Typically it's fiction. Sorry, not a big fan. They've gotten a lot of things wrong. So what Zillow doesn't take into account is condition of home, what has sold comparables within your market within the last 6 months to give us price per square footage. I met yesterday with a new client to list her home, and she goes, Zillow has my home for $149,000. I was like, that's funny because I'm going to put it on the market for $215,000. And I was like, we're probably going to get above asking prices on it. So Zillow, definitely, I'm going to throw that one out, that 100% fiction, not fact, because when you have a licensed real estate agent, you're working with them. Our job is to run the numbers, to give you the comparables and show you exactly the offers that are going to be brought to the table from any of the loan types. Well, we'll go with the 4 types: cash, conventional, FHA, or VA. So I'm going to look at all those numbers across the board. So when we go live on the market and we start collecting offers, you pretty much already know what you're going to get.
That's great to know, because I think I actually had a home once that we owned that was not for sale, and Zillow said it was for sale. So that was really neat.
Yeah, or it's always fun when Zillow has it like it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and it's like a 6-bedroom, 4 bath, and you're going, Lord have mercy. Yeah, because then everybody's like, well, how many bedrooms is it? It's like, I promise you, they're there. Come to the house and see. Yeah, so thanks, Zillow.
Is there a resource that you would recommend for folks that's comparable to Zillow that's not?
I'm a bigger fan of realtor.com.
Okay.
I feel like they have a little bit more accurate information that feeds into like the MLS system, because once we input data into the system with our MLS, which is the multiple listing sites, then all that information generates to our top tiers, our Trulia, our Redfin, Realtor, our Zillow, and sometimes they just don't get it right. Because I had to call the other day with a dispute because Zillow kept trying to make my HOA $300 a month, and it was $300 a year. So it took a minute to get that figured out, which makes a big difference when you're looking at buyers, because that might completely turn them off from the house with wrong information.
Absolutely. We do have a question about staging I want to go back to before we move too far on in our game. Okay. From Renee Van Allen, about how much does it usually cost to do it, and is it worth the cost up front?
Well, and that's where you really need to look at where your market's at. Right now, it truly is that seller's market. I'd have to see your home, and then how much staging do you actually need? Or would it benefit you to leave behind a few items of your furniture and then pick those up with a pod or a vehicle later? And I know that's not ideal for cross country, or buy it off marketplace and then sell it to the buyers whenever you're done. So I don't know how much it's going to cost. Where are you at? Which part of the country?
Renee,
you're in. Do I?
Don't give us your home address, Renee, but tell us where you live.
Yeah, give me a state or a city.
Okay. Well, while we wait for her to do that, let's go on to our next fact or fiction question. Fact or fiction: my agent will make recommendations to me based on the current market.
Oh, as in, keep going. Is there more to this?
Like, do I need professional housing photos? Do I need exterior maintenance upkeep?
Yes. So your agent should. We should do a basic walkthrough. Like, your first visit with your agent should really be a good breakdown of what to expect and what's to come. I like to sit down with all of my clients. I give them at least 1 to 2 hours of listing time, and we walk through the house room by room, and I tell them exactly what needs to be done. And when we come back, depending on how the house looks, I will either A, hire a professional photographer, or B, I will take the photos myself, move those rooms around and get them ready, and then put them back the way they were because they're lived in. So it's really going to depend on what, with the professional photos, are we doing an open house? Like, every agent is different. I know that's a loaded question, so that really doesn't help either. But exterior maintenance is it's That is a big deal. Your grass needs to be cut. You need to pressure wash your sidewalks, your driveways, the side of your house. This is going to give it more curb appeal, which again could bring you more money in the end.
I love that point about using the photos as a staging opportunity. Renee did say that they had some home staging done in the photos. And because those photos are taken at the beginning of the process, that might be a great opportunity to use the furniture that's in the home before you do the full PCS, before everything is gone. So,
yep.
Thanks.
And that's what, yeah. And it does help to go through, like, for a lot of, they have, a lot of my families have children, and it's not ideal to keep having to go through and clean the room. So I'm like, let's get in, let's get our pictures taken, and then you can go back to living your normal life, unless we have an open house, and then I'm going to need for everything to go back to the way the pictures were. But this way they can still live within the home as it's under market until they sell it.
I love that. And Susan's agreeing with that too, that those photos, that's what everyone looks at first.
Oh, photos are definitely important. If you go on a lot of the sites and you look at what some of the agents put on there, like, I've seen toilet seats up, people in mirrors, like, I'm going, oh my gosh, what were you thinking when you took these photos? And did you not go back and edit? So yes, photos are very important, because you don't want to get called out with your home for the wrong photos.
Yeah, my favorite game is to look for mirrors and find the reflections of people that are just so spectacular.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to continue our game of fact or fiction. Let's say that I have something that's dated or perhaps damaged or just not perfect about my home. Fact or fiction, I should do a financial contingency as the seller.
Oh, okay. Well, the financial contingency is not going to go with dated or any of that. A financial contingency is going to run on the period of time that your buyers have to secure their loan. But I think this one is more of the due diligence period. So when you go under contract, your buyer has a time that's set for their due diligence. And during this time of the due diligence period, the earnest money deposit can be given back to the buyer. So if there is a defect within your home and it is discovered upon that third-party inspection, this is the time that our buyers have the chance to negotiate for the seller to fix it, to be able to move forward. So we call it's an amendment to address concerns. So example, one of my clients had a crack that ran all the way down the house, straight line. And I'm like, okay, is this a structural issue? What is this? So during that due diligence time, I was able to call out a structural engineer to make sure that we didn't have issues with the home, with settlements, and it ended up being a joint seam of the concrete, which is just fine. So we were able to move past that due diligence period and stay with the contract. So that is something with the due diligence period, is what you want to look for as a seller is a shorter due diligence period, because that locks you into the contract to move forward. But if you're a buyer's agent, I like to give just a little bit more time so that we can pick apart the house and I can get the seller to do the repairs. But right now that's a little bit harder because it is that seller's market. So buyers are having to make the sacrifice of, well, we'll just take it as is in a sense. But do I need to touch back on the financial contingency part? You guys tell me.
I feel like
now I'm going to fact or fiction you all.
Because we are getting some questions. So let me pull up this one from Van Roy. Is the timeline for due diligence a consistent time period or an agreed upon time? So you mentioned that it could be a little bit longer, that you want it longer for the buyer and a little shorter for the seller, but what's the average or midline there?
So I'd say average cross country is between 5 and 12 days. That seems to be normally, because this is the initial part of your contract. So whenever you get that contract and you break it down, it's going to give the amount that they're going to purchase for, without going into all the details of it, what our closing costs are, if the seller is going to contribute any of those. Then it's going to break down to who our closing attorney is or your title company. Within the section with the earnest money deposit, there's typically a section that's beneath that, and it is called the due diligence period. And so that is that time for you all, even though you're under contract, your buyer can walk with no penalties. And so this gives them that security, because this is where that time is where I tell my inspector, I need you to come in and pick apart this house, because typically most homes have some shingles missing, some nail pops, pretty minor stuff. But then I'm able to negotiate for those to be repaired, or we take it as is, or we walk and we get our earnest money deposit back. And then your seller goes right back on the market.
That's fair.
Got it.
Dan Roy, did I get all that?
He said thanks. So
okay, welcome.
As we're going to go on to our next fact or fiction question, but I do want to encourage our audience, if there's anything you want to know, fact or fiction, about anything in the real estate market right now, buying or staging or selling or purchasing, anything at all, please use this opportunity while we have Rena on the line.
Go easy on me, guys. Yeah.
No,
I'll see if I can answer it.
All right, we're going on to our next question. Fact or fiction, homes can under-appraise in this market?
100% fact.
Okay, so what should they do in the steps moving forward?
All right, so this is a tricky one. And again, it's going to depend where you're at, how many offers you got. This is where the terms of that purchase agreement are crucial, because there are things that you can do as a buying agent. I do it all the time. It's called an escalation clause. Where I can offer, and this just kind of goes above the appraisal, I can offer above any other offer that's out there. Okay. There's another one that you can do is called it's basically a gap. So if the home under appraises, I'm going to pay the difference to the value in which I wrote the contract for. So that's called the appraisal gap. All right. So that is something that if you have multiple offers on the table, and right now in this crazy market, even though interest rates are slowly creeping up to the 4s, people are still writing and we still have low demand. So what we look for, well, what a lot of sellers look for is that appraisal gap. So let's say the house is 250 and you write it for 275. I priced it at 250 for a reason, because I got the comparables to support what the appraiser is going to come in at. But now you just offered me 25,000 over what we are asking. Now, if there's not an appraisal gap there, then there's nothing to secure that contract. I wrote a number, and I might be able to support it, I might not, and the appraisal could fall short. So if that appraisal falls short, there's two things. You can either adjust your price or you can walk from the contract. You got to weigh out which one it is, taxes that you're going to end up paying to go back on the market, and then also to pull your buyers back in. So with where we're at with the market, and I've seen it because, VA is given comparables as to what they can provide, FHA and conventional. And so just because I write for a house to be 300,000 doesn't mean that it's going to appraise there. So you really want to look at that appraisal gap, or potentially an escalation clause that someone will pay up to, but not to exceed over the appraised value if it under appraises or falls short. So that's where a seller really has to sit back and say, all right, do we walk on the contract or do we accept the terms of what the appraisal came back as? Now, there is a catch-22 in there. I can always do a tidewater, which is a rebuttal against the appraiser, to bring comparables in my area to raise the price of the home. It might not always be at the value of what that home is under contract for, but it could get that number up where the loan will bump up so that the seller can receive more of the funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was like a, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Did I go too much detail?
No, very helpful. Very helpful. I want to ask you a follow-on question. I think we've got a few questions about this. Not necessarily about appraisals, but about the inspections. Are you seeing many inspections waived in this market? And I'm going to tag on another question just personally. When would you recommend waiving the inspection, or would you at all?
I am a huge fan of, okay, I would not say I'd waive the inspection, but I would still do a due diligence of an as is. Okay. Because when you waive that inspection, you don't know the details of the home. But if you use the due diligence that I'm still going to buy the home as is, you just need to be aware as a buyer of the issues that this home could have. So what you don't want to do is waive all of your due diligence, and you just did the appraisal gap. You have no more funds in the bank, and you've got a roof crack, or structural issue. So I would still say do your inspection, but you can definitely take the property as is, and just shorten that due diligence period, because you don't want to get into a money pit where the seller didn't disclose, there could have been issues. That's going down the rabbit hole. But I would always say do the inspection, but just look at the terms as is.
Okay. Are you seeing a lot of buyers passing on home inspections right now?
Yes and no. The ones that are passing on home inspections are ones that they need to keep every dollar that they can. So they're saving that for those sellers' closing costs because the seller isn't forking those out. And that $500 is up front. So is the appraisal. So right there is already about $1,200 out of pocket. So I do see it at times, but I truly, in my personal opinion, I advise against it. I always say have the inspection, because you need to know your home and you need to know the issues with it.
Yep.
Okay. And I just wanted to clarify something when we were talking about the appraisal. I know that's very important for the VA loan specifically, because the VA loan has to match the appraisal value. But is that important for all types of loans, or is it more a VA specific situation?
No, that's all type of loans.
Okay.
The only difference with our VA is that, VA is going to supply us 100% down. So we just have to bring closing cost. Whenever you look at your FHA and your conventional, you're going to have to bring upwards of 3%. And a lot of times people with conventional like to do 20%. So they avoid it's basically mortgage insurance fee that goes onto that loan type. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Did that answer that?
Yes. And okay. I think we also had, Van Roy brought up something about, again, with that appraisal value, the risk of incurring too much financial debt and the service member's career, just something to keep in mind. I don't know if that's something that your clients have ever been concerned about, but is there anything?
No, that's not. That would probably be a very specific case. But yeah, there's always a financial risk with things. But again, that's why I say always do that inspection period. That is, I find that to be very crucial, because I've uncovered a lot of things where we have walked on properties because I'm like, I don't know, personally, I wouldn't buy that for my kids. And that's what I always say. There's just a lot that goes there. And even if you fix that one problem, what's going to trickle on past that? So do the inspections.
That's fair.
And one more follow-up for that. Tell us a little bit about pass-fail inspections.
Oh, I don't know about that. Where are you at, Jen? I guess.
Is she Colorado?
I don't know if there's a pass-fail inspections. I think with the inspections that we do here, it's what are you willing to go with? Once we identify the issues, either you're going to move forward and we can get those fixed, or if it's a fail, then we walk on the contract. So I don't know if that, you're out in Washington State. Yeah. I don't know. Y'all, Washington, I'm not sure about your pass-fail. I can look it up and see, but I've not dealt with that from Detroit down to Georgia. So sorry, Jen. You got me on that one.
All right. Well, that is why it's important to have that real estate agent that's familiar with your area and your military family situation. So let's do fact or fiction. Military families selling their homes through the preferred real estate program can earn cashback rewards.
Oh, yeah. I see y'all getting some checks on the other end after I sell it. So yes, using the PCSgrades, you do get some cashback rewards. So definitely look into that if you guys are looking at buying or selling.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Here's a fun fact or fiction from the audience. I love it. Renee asks, fact or fiction? It's better to hold on to a home and rent it out.
So that is your personal, it's going to depend on your market. How much are you going to rent it out for? Like when we start to look at base areas, like I could tell you right now that anybody at Fort Stewart can rent a home for $1,428. You just open the door for everybody. Okay. When you start creeping up in numbers on your mortgage, you are limiting who can rent your home. Now, if you have the turnover there for supply and demand, like here at Stewart, we don't have rentals. So if you were to turn it around and rent it, you're not going to have an issue. So I would say, look at your market, look at your rentals, pull up on Realtor and see what rentals are available in the area that are comparable to your home. And I'm going to go down the rabbit hole on this one. If you're going to use a property management company, check your property management company, or else you are throwing away 10% of that rental income. I've seen this, and this is personal experience, that, wasted money. They never followed up. They never did home inspections. You get the home back and you're like, oh my God, what did I pay you for? So just follow up with your area with the rentals. That is a great resource to have, that income coming in from a rental. And that increases your real estate portfolio. So, you just have to be able to absorb the cost with it. if anything breaks, keep that little money pot on the side for water heater. Like my oven in my Detroit house just went out. We got that fixed. These things do come up, but I'm a fan of hanging on to the rental properties, but that's my own personal choice. So you guys got to weigh out where your family's at. Let's say the home isn't rented for 2 months. Can you absorb that cost and a BAH on your other side? So you have to weigh those out. I'd say put a spreadsheet out, do pros and cons, and pull your numbers and see what your net profit is going to be after the end of each year.
I love that, because we've ended up in rental situations where we owned a home in North Carolina and then got orders overseas. So we did rent that out for a few years, but not indefinitely, because at some point the home begins to age and you're starting to approach those higher repairs.
Roofs, furnaces, hot water heaters, AC.
So we did make sure that we sold before we got to that age of the home. And now we're in a situation where we're almost doing the reverse. We purchased a home that we have not lived in yet. We've been renting it out for several years, and that's the home we're planning to retire to. So we've had renters for a few years paying the mortgage, discovering all the things that are wrong with the home that we need to fix before we move there. So there's definitely pros and cons to each location and each situation.
Right. Yeah, you just got to weigh it out with really what works best for you. That's not a decision that I think any real estate agent can make. You've got to weigh it out for your family in that long term.
All right, Rena, I think we've got one more question for you. And it's
Jenna.
All right. Our one more question for you is fact or fiction. It's important for military families to have a real estate agent who understands military moves.
Yes. 100% yes. I could say a lot of things. I got to watch. I still have to stay with my board of ethics. Yes, you need an agent that is going to understand what you've done. I know that, like myself, I'm in a massive network of veterans, spouses, retired, still active duty. They get, when I send over a referral of someone that's coming hot and heavy to their area and they need that door to door, I always go with my veterans in that network, just because I know that they understand exactly what it is that we're doing. They understand our acronyms. They understand, like, I'm wheels up on this end, I'm coming in hot on this end, I need to sign, and my ABF, my pods or my movers are hot on my heels. So I really think that with that network, you're going to get an agent that truly understands our lifestyle and embraces it. We'll do everything they can to get you on that door to door to make it hopefully a seamless transaction. It's not always that easy, but at least understands and will work to get you the home that you need, or to sell the home that you need in that timeline. So, but again, make sure that it's a good fit. Interview your agents, and don't be afraid to fire an agent. This is about, this is for you. This has nothing to do, this is a business transaction. So if you're not happy with your agent, I think I said this in my last time, fire them and interview again, because you've got to find the right fit that's going to be an advocate on your behalf 100%.
And for Fanny here, do you want to highlight what are the top 3 things you'd recommend looking for in an agent?
Oh, definitely communication is 100%. Communication, knowledge, and I want to say transparency, because you need to be able to call them, because in the end, I work for you. And you need to be able to trust that I got your back. Like, if this is a street fight, girl, I got you. Like, this is where we're at in this market. So I think the big one is going to be communication. And if you can't get a hold of your agent and they don't call you back and they're not direct, next. What's the Ariana Grande song? Thank you, next. Yeah, off you go. Because there's going to be someone else that's going to slide in and work for you 110% and get it done versus that other agent.
Absolutely. And I think especially right now, I mean, there's so few listings, it seems like. And so the ability to find,
it's cutthroat.
Yeah. So to find somebody who wants to work with you and is responsive is so important.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, it is.
I believe Rena is on her way to help a military family close on a home right now.
Yay.
So we don't want to hold you up any longer, but you have been such a wealth of information, and we have appreciated your insight. So you guys can keep on commenting and asking your questions. We can have Rena look at them afterwards, after we've gone live.
You got me I got 2 more minutes, and then I got to roll. I got to switch off my house shoes into my other shoes. So you got me 2 more minutes.
Okay. One question for you from Courtney Smith. How is the crazy market affecting rentals?
I have found, and this is in my area, that a lot of our investors that had rentals sold them. They evicted the client, or they put the eviction on the door. We served the 60-day notice. The house went on the market and it is gone. So I think in my area, I can say that we have a reduced amount of rentals. So the people were cashing in at those 2% and those high payouts. I don't know how that's going to change as our market does a slow shift with the interest rates as they climb, even though they're still really good interest rates. But I do think that the market has 100% affected rentals and affordable rentals, because if someone has a rental, they bump the price of that rental, which now it goes typically over what our BAH is. Did that hit it, Courtney?
Yeah, and I think that's not just in Georgia, but that's happening in
No, that's every. Yeah, I do know that there was some. I was listening to something the other day, and they were trying to do a reassessment of each area as well, because most places did get the BAH increase, just because the rental prices have skyrocketed, where people are paying $400, $500, $600 over what BAH is to live in that home.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Well, my love, you're always such a joy to have on the show. We so appreciate you coming back. You're just a wealth of knowledge and just so fun to be around. So thank you for joining us today. Good luck with your
PCS family.
And
hopefully I'll see you guys before I PCS again.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Otherwise, we're all going to come visit you in Europe for sure.
Come on, doors open.
All right, thanks, Rena. Have a great day. Right. And for the rest
of
our audience, we are getting ready to give away a $100 Target gift card. And while I get the wheel of names ready, Lizanne, you want to give a shout out to our spouse sponsors and talk to about some of the available opportunities there?
I do, absolutely. I see that we have a couple spouse sponsors on the call here. I believe Jen is one from JBLM. Sorry, I misspoke about that earlier. And I think we had Marissa from out in Colorado, Team Carson. So we encourage all of you to look into our spouse sponsor program. It is military spouses who are stationed at some of the larger military bases around the country, and they are your resource on the ground to answer your questions, whether you're moving to that base in the future or you've just moved. They can tell you all about the surrounding area and what to expect there. So you see at the bottom of the screen, we are actively looking for sponsors in a few locations, which includes San Diego, Pacific Northwest, Fort Hood, Maxwell Air Force Base, Eglin Air Force Base, and Wright-Patterson. So if you are in those locations, or if you know someone great in those locations, contact us and let us know. Otherwise, reach out and ask if there's PCSgrades spouse sponsor in your next base.
Thank you for that. And now it's time, the moment you've all been waiting for, to give away a $100 Target gift card. So exciting. And we are going to do this. Let's see here. I always feel like it's a Christmas miracle when this works out.
And the technology cooperates.
It is. Okay, it's working. We're doing it. All right, and here we go. And whoever wins, we want to make sure that you get your prize by contacting the page.
Message us right here at the PCSgrades page.
Oh, it jumped. Okay, Steve Miser, congratulations. Please send us a message on PCSgrades Facebook page so we can get you your $100 gift card for Target. So exciting. And Lizanne, you want to tell us about our webinar next week?
Yes, next week is super exciting because we are actually beginning a new moving series. It's going to be with charter transportation and a variety of guests each time. But next week specifically, we are talking about hiring movers, the do's and don'ts. So if you are doing a PPM or even a partial PPM and you've considered hiring your own non-military movers, then you definitely want to listen in and get the tips from the pros next week.
Awesome. And until then, this too shall PCS. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.